Hi. So go ahead and have your blocks next to you, or whatever support you use, a blanket, a pillow, couch cushion, whatever. Just have them nearby so that you can grab them and come onto your back into constructive rest. So soles of feet, hips distance, resting on the mat, and then let the inner knees rest toward one another. And either have arms down by your sides, or one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. And for the first few breaths, don't make any effort to change your breath at all. Just observing, watching as it comes in through your nose, down the back of your throat, into your lungs. Watch how those pressure changes. Send your chest up and lower it down. How the breath makes your belly rise and fall. Start to increase the length of your breath. Just a little bit at a time, so that each breath is just a little bit bigger than the one before it. Until you find full lungs and completely empty lungs. And once you get to these biggest, deepest breaths, take several, but really slowly. Like you're letting air out of a balloon. So when we take those bigger, deeper, slower breaths, we start to use the diaphragm a little bit more, rather than breathing up into the top of the chest under the collarbones. We pull it down to the diaphragm. And start to activate the vagus nerve. And settle the nervous system. One more round of breath. And if you have a hand on your heart and a hand on your belly, let your arms come down by your sides. Let your knees separate so they're pointing straight up toward the ceiling, and let them fall over to the left. Just take a couple of nice easy breaths here. Bring your knees back up into center and over to the right. Just that kind of testing out what's happening here in the hips and the legs and the low back. Just to see how the body's going to respond for the rest of the practice, or what you're starting at least. And come back into center, pull your knees into your chest. Give them a nice little squeeze, a little rock side to side. With your hands on your knees and stir up your sacrum. Send your knees in either direction. Just kind of stirring in circles. And then switch directions. Stop in the center, roll yourself up, take hold of the outsides of your feet, the pinky toe edges of your feet, and come down into your happy baby. If outsides of feet are not accessible, hold on to your ankles or the back of your thighs. But really let knees be kind of wide here. And on your next exhale, send your tailbone toward the floor. So we're finding some length in the low back and kind of taking some of that flexion out of the low spine. We won't, I think, be able to take all of it out. But moving the spine toward neutral. And on your next exhale, start to straighten the right leg. And the right leg may not go straight. The right leg may never go straight. But toward straight. Until you get some feedback in the inner thigh, behind the knee a little bit in your right side rear end. And if it is specifically behind the right knee, but it's really sharp, start to bend the knee a little bit. We want to avoid the sharpness, but we still want to get some length. So finding that happy medium. And then pull the right heel back to where it started. Send the left leg a little bit straight. Or towards straight. And you can change your grip to kind of piece fingers around the big toe if that's a easier get for you. And then bring the left foot back to where it started. And start to alternate straightening and bending the right, straightening and bending the left. And you might find you're kind of tipping over a little bit from right to left. That just gives you an extra little massage for those paraspinal muscles anyway. So that's your happy baby bonus for the day. Starting to straighten and bend, side to side. And when you feel kind of even, bring your knees back into your chest. And send your feet straight up to the ceiling. Let your feet separate a little bit and pull your toes down toward your face. Send your heels high. And as you send your heels high, send your sitting bones and your tailbone down toward the floor. So we find length in the back of the leg without really even moving anything. And point your toes, finding that length all the way from the tops of the toes to the knees maybe even. And point and flex. And bring the feet down. Keep the knees bent. And maybe a little tick-tock side to side. Kind of release the sacrum here. And wherever your feet landed, bring them about hips distance. Send your arms down by your sides. Press into your heels. Lift your hips. Send your fingertips straight up to the ceiling. Press into your heels. Lift your hips just a little bit higher. Find an inhale breath. exhale, roll yourself all the way down. Just give yourself a moment to let that little bit of activity sink in. And press into your heels, lift your hips, lift your hands straight up to the ceiling. And send your hips just a little bit higher. Keep your heels where they are. Isometrically drag them toward your shoulders. So we're really turning on your buns, your hamstrings, a little bit of the rest of the back body. Find an inhale. And exhale, roll everything down. Again, give it a breath. Maybe two. Press into your heels, lift your fingers up to the sky. Lift the hips just the tiniest bit more. Drag the heels toward your buns, and this time press the shoulders down into the mat too, as if you could lift your heart off of the mat. Maybe lift the hips just the tiniest bit more, drag your heels just the tiniest bit more. And exhale, lower all the way down. Pull your knees into your chest, give it a little wiggle. And then bring your feet back down to the mat. Hop your hips over to the right. Pull your knees in toward your chest and roll all the way to your left side. So hips are at 90 degrees, knees are at 90 degrees. Hands are right out in front of your shoulders, directly in front. And then maybe support your head if it doesn't feel okay to your neck, or if it makes you feel a little upside down to not have head support. Slide your right hand way off of your left hand, way past, until fingertips of your left hand are resting on the inside of the right wrist. Open the right hand all the way to the right side, and then make the adjustments you need. Press into the back of your head, slide your left shoulder over to the left. Maybe if you have support under your head that might not feel good anymore, make yourself comfortable. Really breathing into that whole right side. So you might find that it really affects, that inhale really affects the right ribs, the right side chest, maybe down into the arms. Feeling that inhale maybe in your low back or on the outside of the right hip. Two more breaths. And send your right hand straight up to the ceiling, all the way over to meet the left again. Roll to your back. Slide your hips and shoulders back into alignment. Bring the bottoms of your feet together. Let your knees fall apart, coming into Supta Konasana. And if you want to have blocks or blankets under knees or hips, that might feel nice. If it feels totally fine to you to let your legs be unsupported, totally do that. And allow for 3 full breaths. And if you have props underneath, legs, slide them out of the way. Hop your hips over to the left, pull your knees up toward the ceiling, and let them fall to the right. Bringing left hand on top of right, slide it past your right hand, and open into your twist, making the little adjustments that you need to be comfortable. Find deep breath. One more full breath. Once on the left hand, up and across to meet the right. And roll back to your back. Slide everything into place. Press into your feet, lift your hips, slide your block or whatever prop you have underneath your sacrum. So keep it out of your low back, closer to your tailbone than the top of the pelvis. It kind of your whole pelvis just sits squarely on that prop, and then legs come out long. Then arms come out long. Coming into extended exhale here, so really focusing on the bottom of the breath. And maybe at the bottom of the breath there's a little extra you can get rid of. And notice how that affects the opening in the hip flexors, maybe the tops of the thighs, maybe across the low belly. Two more rounds of breath. Slide your feet back in, bring your arms down by your sides, press into your feet, lift your hips, slide your prop out of the way. Let a little windshield wiper come in. And send your feet straight up to the ceiling again. And point and flex and circle. And come back down. Bring your legs out long. Arms down by your sides. Let your palms face up. Your eyes closed. Slowly going about the business of releasing any remaining tension. all of your muscles and your toes and the bottoms and the tops of your feet and your ankles. And your calves and your shins and your knees. Your quads and your hamstrings, your pelvic floor, your seat, your low belly, your fingers and your palms and the backs of your hands, wrists, forearms, elbows, upper arms and shoulders. Your whole back and chest, throat and your jaw. Your eyes, your forehead. Scalp. All easy and soft. Two more breaths. Slide your feet in toward your seat. Make your way to your side. Rest here in this intersection between your practice and the rest of your day. And make your way to seated. Send your arms out to the side and up. Take a big inhale breath. Pull hands into heart center. And another inhale. And let it go. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Thanks.